Salve, Regina, Mater misericordiae.
Today is another one of those situations in which, in the extraordinary form, it is the on the Franciscan calendar, it is the feast of St Peter of Alcantra, which in the Novus Ordo is transferred to the 23rd, I believe, because of our celebration in the Roman Rite in the United States of the North American Martyrs, Saints Isaac Jogues, St. John Brebeuf, and companions. Although the extraordinary form in this country does call for, actually I think also outside the country calls for a commemoration of the Holy Martyrs also on today. So that's what we're doing. But the readings from today, especially the Gospel, in which we are encouraged to treasure, to accumulate for ourselves treasure in heaven rather than treasure on this earth, applies to both St. Peter of Alcantra and the North American Martyrs. St. Peter of Alcantra lived his religious life after the Franciscan order had been divided over poverty. In 1517, the same year that Luther did his thing, the Franciscan order was divided into two groups. One which was trying to observe the rule in all of its rigor, and the other which was making accommodations to what they might argue was necessity, but sometimes also to the world. In any case, St. Peter belonged, of course, to the first group, which was termed the observance, but he wasn't satisfied with the observance that was being conducted in Spain at the time. He wanted to do something even stricter. He felt inspired by God to do so, and obtained ultimately permission within this observant branch of the order to become basically a sort of discalced form of the Franciscans of that time, and later the observance came to be known as the Alcantarines. But St. Peter of Alcantra is well known for those of us who read the breviary for having chided St. Teresa of Avila for having gone to lawyers and worldly men to seek counsel about whether or not it was possible for the sisters in the monasteries to live in complete poverty. And she had been, in one way or another, under the direction of St. Peter for some time, and he was surprised that she would have wanted worldly men to examine the question as to whether or not it was possible to live according to the counsels of Jesus Christ, the counsel of poverty. And he said it betrayed a lack of faith on her part. And so after she received this letter from St. Peter, she also lived a radical form of poverty in her convents of the reform of the Carmelite order. And so St. Peter had this very profound and convicted sense that if we would just do what the Lord wanted us to do, that he would provide for us, and that any other counsel is foolishness, although those who might advise us, those who might not have the faith or organize their own lives in a different way, will look upon what we do as foolishness. Even so, God's foolishness is wiser than men. So St. Peter lived in the providence of God, and he gave up his life and possessions and his freedom in religious life, in Franciscan life, as an expression of that trust in divine providence. The Holy Martyrs of North America, the great Jesuit martyrs, displayed the same kind of trust in divine providence and manifested the fact that their treasure was in heaven, not of this earth, because they heard the stories of what was going on in North America. It was being recounted by various missionaries, and they were inspired to follow that path. And the fact that it was challenging and dangerous, the fact that they were going to have to leave their homeland, and for many of them, or for all of them, St. Isaac Jones did manage to get back to France before he was martyred for a time, but when they actually left their homeland, France, they all of them expected never to see their homeland or their families ever again in their life. And for many of them, that actually came to pass. But they had a desire, a deep calling and desire to do this because God, first of all, had called them, but also because they were on fire with love for Him. And their desire was to live in His providence, to have their treasure in Him and in heaven rather than on this earth. And that spirit radiated from them in such a way that they desired to manifest and to evangelize the peoples with this truth. And when they went and they spoke about God, when they spoke about conversion from sin and the life of grace, this truth radiated from their persons, because this is the way they lived. This was both the case for St. Peter and for the Holy Martyrs. Dom Chautard, in his book, The Soul of the Apostolate, mentions in one passage that one of the most important things for the apostle is that they should be able to radiate that presence of God from themselves by the way they live. And the whole point of his book, which is about the apostolate, about evangelization and the work that was being done, for example, by the Holy Martyrs, is that it's the interior life more than anything else that is going to make an apostle effective. So the book really is about the integration of active and contemplative life. So we turn to the Holy Martyrs and to St. Peter of Alcantra today and beg them for the grace that we might be able to have our treasure in heaven as well, even if we are not called to be missionaries, as the Holy Martyrs were called, or as the friars in some way are called. We all have a vow which obliges us to go to the missions if we are asked, but not all of us necessarily are asked or feel inspired. In any case, even if we're not available in this way, we are all called to have our treasure in heaven, and to be willing to give everything to God rather than commit a sin or to turn from the path that He has set up for us. It may be very simple, a matter of doing our duty, which is always the most fundamental thing, and we all know what that is. It's not high in the sky, it's not far away from us, but it's what we can do each and every day out of love for Him, desiring with all our hearts to please Him rather than to please ourselves. So we ask for that grace as we approach this holy altar where our Lord Himself shows us where the treasure is and where He makes Himself available at His own expense so that we might share in that treasure. May we be grateful and ask God to help cultivate in us an ever greater desire to wholly belong to Him and to give ourselves to Him on behalf of souls.